If everyone is listening here and you think about your chronological age and your peers and friends who are your same chronological age, some of them probably look a lot older than you, some probably look the same as you, some probably look younger than you. So why?
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Wendy Myers. Welcome to the Myers Detox Podcast. On this show, we talk about everything related to your health, to more advanced topics regarding your health, about bioenergetics, heavy metal detoxification, anti-aging. And today we're talking to Hannah Wendt, and she's one of the co-founders of TruDiagnostic.com. And this is a test where you can test your true biological age, which is really, really fascinating. I was really excited to do this test. I'd never done a biological age test before, and I thought it's about time. And I found that I was 2 years younger than my biological age, and I'd also just done it after a really stressful project. And so I felt like maybe the next time I do the test, it's going to be even better, even better results. But I was still really, really happy with these results, knowing that I'm younger than my chronological age. And we'll talk about what kind of results you could expect on this test, why you want to do this test, why it's so important to get a baseline in your health, to see how fast your body is aging. You can look at the pace of your aging as well, and how you compare to the rest of the population. And it can really be a wake-up call for you to see if what you're doing is working or not. If you like, maybe before you go on a big detox program, or you really do a big push for your health, it's good to get a baseline and then test afterwards, maybe 6 or 12 months after, to see if what you're doing is moving the needle. So it's an amazing test to take. And our guest today is Hannah Wendt. So Hannah Wendt has a lifelong passion for longevity and breakthrough disruptive technologies that drive radical improvement in the human condition. She attended the University of Kentucky and graduated with a degree in biology. And during that time, she's had multiple research internships studying cell signaling and cell biology. And after graduation, she worked at the International Peptide Society as their director of research and content. And through work in the integrative medicine industry, Hannah saw an opportunity for methylation-based age diagnostics and founded TruDiagnostic in 2020. And so this is a company that focuses on methylation array-based diagnostics for life extension and preventative healthcare serving functional medicine providers. TruDiagnostic has a commitment to research with over 30 approved clinical trials investigating the epigenetic methylation changes of longevity and health interventions. And since the company's inception, they've created one of the largest private epigenetic health databases in the world with over 75,000 patients tested to date. Very impressive. And Hannah has since created Everything Epigenetics, where she shares insights on how DNA regulation has an impact on your health. You can learn more about this test and take it yourself at TruDiagnostic.com. And you can use coupon code Wendy10 to get 10% off the cost of the test. Hannah, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Dr. Myers. I'm super excited to chat with you today. I appreciate you having me on.
Yes. So today we're going to talk about testing your age and why that's important. So why don't you tell us about yourself and TruDiagnostic.com, the tests you guys provide?
Yes, my name is Hannah Wendt. It's great to have everyone listening in. And a little bit about myself first. I grew up in a small town north of Dayton, Ohio called Piqua. It has about 20,000 people in it, so you can decide if it's small or large relative to where you grew up, and came down to Lexington, Kentucky, about 2.5 hours south to attend schooling here, and have always been interested in how the body works. Growing up, I always knew I wanted to go somewhere in the scientific realm or field, so I went from animal science major, being interested in veterinary work, to just general biology and really wanting to do more with humans and genetics and counseling. So putting those two together, and had a lot of interest in genetic counseling, actually, which is a pretty new major and field just in general. But ended up taking a unique position right outside of college at a pharmacy that specialized in peptide pharmaceuticals. And after a couple years there, we really wanted a way to prove that those pharmaceuticals worked, right, on people. They had a lot of subjective data, not as much quantitative data. So we kind of said, all right, well, what's the number one biomarker to rule them all? And it's biological aging. And that's, kind of where TruDiagnostic was born, and what I do now. I'm a co-founder of the company, and, spend my day-to-day talking with people like yourself on podcasts or other opportunities, but really working a lot with our healthcare providers who are mainly in the integrative functional medicine space. And then secondarily, start our larger partnerships too.
So why don't you tell us what biological age is exactly?
Yes, this is a very great introductory question to getting the conversation started. Biological age, I don't know that everyone's agreed on this. My interpretation, or what I believe is most true when it comes to the definition, is really that we're aging on a cellular level, right? If you think, if everyone is listening here and you think about your chronological age and your peers and friends who are your same chronological age, some of them probably look a lot older than you. Some probably look the same as you. Some probably look younger than you. So why? What's that actual difference if you're the same years old chronologically? And that's really meaning, hey, on the molecular level, on a cellular, tissue, organ, whole body level, we're actually aging differently. So that's the idea of biological age, that we have this number that is a representation of our experiences, our environment, our behavior, all wrapped into one, that maybe in the future would be considered during health workups or, insurance premiums. Instead of asking date of birth, it's, hey, what's your biological age and where did you get that tested? So we can validate, kind of which testing you went through too.
Yeah, because your chronological age is your birth date. But it makes sense. I think it's good to kind of check your biological age. And I wanted to do it, one, because I wanted to see if, what I've been doing is paying off as far as my health and my lifestyle, et cetera, and all the detoxification that I've done. And then you can kind of get a baseline and then maybe do a protocol for 6 months or a year and retest and see what you're doing is working. Like I've heard people say they do peptides and reverse their age, or they, do all kinds of different things. And so, I really feel like all the detoxification I've done, removing heavy metals because they age you, has really reduced my biological age. So I was really happy about that. And so for my test results, I did a TruDiagnostic test, and it's one of the leading tests out there for testing your biological age. Mine was at 50, and I'm going to be 52 on Monday, on August 5th, which is this will be, published later than that. But so I was 2 years younger. So I was hoping it was going to be a little bit more, but I'll take it. I'll take it. So can you explain those results a little bit?
Yes, and I'm gonna say something, if you don't mind, even before I jump into those too. So it was really great that you were like, hey, I've done all this detoxification work, right? And releasing my body of these heavy metals, or trying to optimize my environment, right? Essentially is what you're doing. I have never gotten more requests than when people actually say, oh, I've already done all this stuff. I wish I would have tested when I did not actually remove all of those heavy metals, right? Or was it a kind of different version of myself? So Dr. Myers, I'm wondering if you would have tested before that, if you would have been like older or maybe just 1 year younger, so you could actually start to see that trend. Because you're right, you want to do a baseline, and then after you make changes, you want to start retesting every 6 to 12 months or so. So that's a point I wanted to make. But then secondarily, those results are amazing. Like when anyone has a younger biological age, a slower pace or rate of aging, it really is very impressive, because when we're comparing that to our chronological age, we should be aging, right? We're going around the sun on this earth and should be increasing in that number, which we know chronological age is linear, and biological age necessarily is not. But any type of reduction is going to be impressive. We know just in general, men age quicker than women. You'll start to see men being older than women. Chronologically, they tend to, die earlier as well. So, very impressive work, and, happy early birthday too. That's super exciting. You can say, hey, I'm turning 1 year older chronologically, but biologically, I'm 2 years younger. And I think really the sky's the limit. Now you can kind of dig into your results a little bit deeper, see how you can pull some levers and push some pedals to try and make a couple other changes as well.
So for anyone listening that really wants to detox their body, go to heavymetalsquiz.com. I created a quiz for you. It only takes a couple of seconds. Based on some lifestyle questions, you can get your toxicity score and get a free video series that answers all of your frequently asked questions about how to detox your body. Check it out, heavymetalsquiz.com. Yeah, I'm definitely getting really strict on removing seed oils, which are the industrial seed oils, which are super inflammatory. Getting much more strict about that. Doing another intense round of detox. I'm doing peptides. So we'll see how that moves the needle. I'm going to retest in a year and see if what I'm doing is working. And so let's look at, I want to look at some examples of other people. So what is kind of the youngest biological age that you've seen compared to someone's chronological age? What are some shocking results or stories you can give us?
Definitely. So there was one that sticks in my mind. It's not going to be, I'm going to warn everyone, it's not going to be like super exciting by any means, but I remember it is exciting, but in terms of maybe what people want to know how to change it is maybe less exciting. But it was the first time I really saw anyone have like a multi-year age reversal, right? Which is very impressive when you're reducing biological age again by a year to 5 years. It's extremely rare. And this was still early days in TruDiagnostic, about a year in, when people started to really retest and take this testing seriously as it relates to their own health. And it was a husband of a healthcare provider that we had. He was very overworked. He ran a company, was a founder, was still very involved in, day-to-day operations, logistics, managing, overseeing everything. He wasn't happy. He wasn't eating well. He wasn't exercising. Really, work ran his life. And he knew it too. He was aware, which I think is great, but he wanted to make a change. So he actually went through his wife's program, was fortunate enough to be able to step down from his job, kind of push it away, some be a board member. He ended up golfing, every day. He ended up really getting his diet straightened up, his physical fitness regimen, his stress levels. And again, he's also testing his blood biomarkers. He's testing his hormone levels alongside of this and doing some genetic testing, and maybe even did a little bit of detoxing as well. And I remember seeing about a 5-year reversal in that year time frame, and that was like, wow, like things are happening. These lifestyle environmental associations are working. And again, that was when it was still really, really new. So I mentioned it wasn't as exciting because he just did some really simple things, right, to help his age. But the trajectory of where that helped him and where his life is going now is definitely profound and going to have an impact on not only his health, but his wife. He had a child at the time. They just had another one recently. I still keep up with them until this day. And not everyone has the luxury, I think, to do what he did in terms of, stepping down from his job and golfing every day and whatnot. But it shows you that just those little lifestyle factors can make a massive difference, which I think is the takeaway.
Yeah. And when you can make your health your full-time job, that can make a big difference. I have many clients, their health is their full-time job. I mean, I love that. I love hearing that. But I think there's a lot of changes people can make. You guys listening, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit and things that you can do to improve your biological age, reduce it. So what are some of the top tips you have for people to reduce their biological age?
This is also, as you can imagine, a very popular question we get, Dr. Myers. So what's really cool about this testing and why I really like it is, again, it's okay, you have all these biomarkers, you're going to your doctor, like, how do you make sense of all of them, right? There's hundreds, if not thousands of points. Well, what we really want to say is, hey, is there a marker that can rule them all, as I mentioned earlier? And biological age really is that. It's something we can look at to say, are we going in the right direction or are we not? And because of that, it's very unique to the person, right? This is where we're actually making N-of-1 precision medicine come to life. And I can point to, or I can talk about some of the general population-based studies that are out there that are, peer-reviewed, published, and look really good from just like an experimental standpoint. And I can tell you what works for me, but this testing is really awesome because it's super, super specific to you. So I want to get that out there that, this is just, I can definitely tell you what works for me, which is actually one of the published trials. I was thankful enough to be like, oh, you know what? That's a great trial. I actually want to try that. And I've seen age reversal on myself in this way and slowing down my pace of aging, just with simple caloric restriction. So it's the study I'm referring to is called the Calorie Randomized Control Trial. It's just a 10% overall caloric restriction in healthy non-obese adults over a 2-year period. So it's nothing crazy. It's taking 200 calories off of your 2,000 caloric based diet. Not necessarily intermittent fasting or time restricted feeding. If you're thinking, which one is that? Just kind of eating less. You're increasing you're reducing your oxidative stress, your inflammation. Of course, you have to eat a healthy diet as well, too, right? You can't eat an unhealthy diet and just reduce calories and expect to see the same effect. So that quality of food is going to matter as well.
Yeah, why does that always have to be the food? Why do you always have to take away our food?
I have a tip as well. So you're right. I'm like, I have the biggest sweet tooth. I love food. It does get easier over time. And, to anyone listening, don't just like stop eating, right? You have to consult with your healthcare provider. It can be, and you definitely don't want to restrict calories if you're pregnant, breastfeeding, trying to hit a certain muscle mass or, physical fitness goal. But my tip, Dr. Myers, is I have a pretty like diverse diet. I would say, meat eater, still eat some carbs here and there and fats, rather healthy, I would say. One change I made where I was like, whoa, that just makes a 200 caloric difference and you don't even know it. This sounds so silly to say. I love breakfast. I eat, onions, mushrooms, peppers with some eggs in the morning, and then like bacon or sausage as well there. And I'm like, I know this isn't great. It doesn't feel great in my body. Let me switch to like turkey bacon or turkey sausage or something that's a lot more lean in terms of that meat. And that's like knocking 300 calories off my diet right at the beginning of the day. So one, it sets me up for success, pending I eat, pretty well the rest of the day, which I normally do. And I just feel better, right? Like at the end of the day, it's less fatty, better macros anyways too.
Okay, fantastic. And yeah, I'm sure a lot of people can just get rid of their Starbucks in the morning too. There is sugary drink or eliminating calories from liquids. I think that's a good rule too. Just use stevia or whatever. There's a lot of
alcohol, right?
Yes.
Like, so there's a lot you can do. But I think once you talk about it and you put it in these simple terms, like we're chatting about here, it doesn't make it seem as scary. Because you're right. People are like, oh, caloric restriction, I got to stop eating or I got to cut out a meal. And it's just not true.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm sure, keeping your blood sugar even, super, because it just ages you. That has high blood sugar levels will age you real fast.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Insulin sensitivity. I think another tip is like, always putting stuff in a bowl from a packet or a wrapper. So you're not like overeating the granola or, chips just comes to mind, right? Like don't grab the bag, like portion it out and also just eat until you're full, like, right? Like eat a serving, wait, drink some water, eat another serving. But in between those servings, you may actually feel full, but when you're constantly eating, you can't really realize that satiety.
I just want to take a minute to give a shout out to one of our sponsors, True Energy Skincare. I absolutely love True Energy Skincare. I've been using it for a couple of years, and I've noticed that dramatic improvement in my skin texture, and it's so soft and supple. This is one of my secret weapons because not only are you getting lots of healthy, natural ingredients, moisturizing, hydration in the True Energy skincare. But she also, the inventor of this, Kathy Goldstein, also infuses thousands of frequencies into the skincare to dramatically improve collagen production and, so many other benefits, in regards to all these different frequencies that are infused into the skincare. When it comes to heavy metals, I just want to touch on this. Heavy metals age you, period. And detoxing, removing the heavy metals and chemicals is very anti-aging because metals act as a catalyst in your body where they are making chemical reactions happen faster in your body. They produce a ton of oxidative stress on your body, which eating food does too. You're digesting that, lots of free radicals, oxidative stress. And so by removing heavy metals, it goes a long way to helping you to, reduce those free radicals, reduce that damage to your body and your DNA, improving a lot of different metabolic functions, etc., by removing heavy metals that interfere in every different organ system and metabolic function in your body. So I just wanted to touch on that. So any other tips to improve your biological age?
Well, yeah, I think too, though, just to stay in kind of your area of work, right? I may touch on some of the heavy metal stuff if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
Just because, yeah, your listeners may be super interested in it as well. So you're exactly right. There are a lot of studies showing this connection or impact that these heavy metals can have on biological aging. And I named a couple of them earlier, but there's, oxidative stress, there's inflammation. For example, lead exposure is known to increase oxidative stress, contributing to neurodegenerative diseases, cardiovascular issues, which are all going to be associated with aging. And then even cadmium exposure. That's been linked to chronic inflammation, increased risk of conditions like atherosclerosis, chronic kidney disease. So those are just a couple examples. There are 3 studies in particular, though, that are specific for aging and DNA methylation. All of them are, regarding common, I would say, exposure. So again, coming back to lead, there are studies that have shown childhood exposure even to lead is associated with these epigenetic changes, these meaning, our expression levels of our DNA that actually persist into adulthood. So those can, change and lead to long-term health effects, accelerated aging. Arsenic exposure, chronic arsenic exposure has been linked to increased biological age, actually measured by these same kind of tests. And then cadmium, too, that I already mentioned. Usually that's more contributing to cancer development and other age-related diseases, but all throughout the same testing that we're doing here. So goes back to your bread and butter, Dr. Myers. And I think what we really want to do with this testing in the future is be able to even predict those lead, not just lead, but those heavy metal levels, right? Say, hey, you're aging because of this metal in particular. We can actually test that through these DNA regulation markers, which is happening. It's not available now, but it is, happening via research, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, and so can you give us any other examples, like regards to like sunlight exposure or exercise or anything like that can you've seen improve the biological age results on the TruDiagnostic test?
Yeah, absolutely. I think sun exposure, absolutely. Usually there's not any, I would say, like hard clinical interventional trials or institutional review boards looking at that. But there are some looking at, vitamin D supplementation and better biological aging too. Several cohorts. It's usually 4,000, 6,000 IU per day, where they're supplementing. And, I think there's a happy medium where you don't want your levels too high. You also don't want them, too low either. So making sure you're supplementing, making sure you're getting out in the sun, and actually being able to synthesize some of that vitamin D is great. Exercise, absolutely. With our testing, we even give you a physical fitness biological age result where we quantify your aerobic, so exercises that are going to cause an increase in really airflow. It's usually like longer, heavier breaths. So think your VO2 max and your FEV1. And then we even quantify your grip strength and your gait speed too, which would be considered anaerobic. So less air required for those movements. It's more like high intensity interval based training. So it's really interesting. Of course, we see people who are going to have better VO2 maxes, FEV1s, grip strength, and gait speed have better aging as well. But again, a happy medium is really what's needed. So you don't want to ever overtrain, which I think maybe some people may be guilty of, including myself, where we start to see those levels creep up a little bit and then cause aging acceleration too.
Well, why don't we talk about the tests? So what are some of the markers on the test? Like what kind of test is it exactly, the TruDiagnostic test? What exactly are you looking for?
Yeah, so I said this term a couple times earlier. We're actually looking at epigenetic markers. So epi is the Greek prefix. It just means above or on top of. So we're quite literally looking on top of the DNA, which DNA is turned on, which DNA is really turned off. And we're able to then use our peer-reviewed, publicly available algorithms to give you an output of interest. And, Dr. Ryers, with the report that you got back, there's many different outcomes. There's your biological age we've been talking about. There's a pace of aging. We can quantify your immune cell subsets and even tell you how long, how much you consumed alcohol and how much smoke exposure you have as it relates to tobacco use over your lifetime as well, which could lead to smoking related conditions over your lifetime. So these on and off kind of regulation patterns, again, being very specific to the end user, are really interesting to study because it's a super unique, novel way of looking at the body. It's been very useful for even biomarker discovery outside of biological aging, which is where we're able to offer you all of those different insights on the reports as well.
Yeah, I remember my pace of aging was really good. I think I was in the 70th percentile. So I was like, yes, because I was
Oh,
like,
wow.
aging slower than, the rest of the population doing the test.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. You were probably, the range is like 0.6 to 1.4. So I'm wondering if you were in, closer to maybe that zero point 0.7 mark, you're aging, if that was the case, you would be aging 0.7 biological years for every one chronological year, which is super impressive. I would say that's usually the goal because if you think of it in terms of quarters, you're basically aging, 3 biological years for every 4 chronological years, which is impressive and something you want to keep consistent to see that reduction over time.
Yeah, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. It's always a work in progress. There's always another level you can take things, and so trying. And so, are there any? Tell us, are there any stories you remember or results of people that had like really bad results and were like much older than their biological age or their chronological age?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's was one in particular, or a couple, I guess, where I saw increased biological ages, increased pace of ages above 1. And when your pace of aging is above 1, you have an increased risk of mortality and morbidity by about 50% over the next 7 years. And like both of these reports were within a day of each other. And like, oh, I was really nervous. They're talking to these healthcare providers about the results. And come to find out, both of them were women, both of them were pregnant as well. So pregnancy absolutely accelerates the aging process. The good news, though, is Harvard has done a lot of work on this where they look at different stressors like pregnancy, COVID-19, elected and unelected surgeries, showing that if you go through any of those types of stressors, you see increases in biological age, but they're transient. So, after that stressor is over, whether it's a couple days or a couple months, you'll see it actually go back to baseline or even better than baseline, depending on, what you're actually doing. So, that was a really interesting one. I also had, someone who tested who was about 20 years older. And that was by far the worst I've ever seen. You just don't see that usually ever. It's I don't want to say it's not possible, but it's unheard of. And come to find out, it was a father's son. The son wanted his father to take the test. And he ended up, he had a Parkinson's, Alzheimer's diagnosis already, and they were just kind of curious and wanted to see what the results looked like. Come to find out, I go and look in the literature, and, there's direct correlations and connections about obviously increased aging and those types of disease detections or diagnoses. So those are the two that, I remember very clearly as I would be going through the reports.
I want to thank one of our sponsors, Pure Air Doctor Air Filters and Home Testing Systems. So you know that you can't be healthy living in a sick home. It's full of mold and other contaminants. So have you tested your home before and found that there was no issue, but you know deep down that there's a problem? Ordinary tests can provide the real answers. So, testing for mold, typically doesn't find the real problem. So just sampling a room or two also is not going to tell the whole story. So Pure Air Doctor Testing Systems is simple and cost effective. It identifies over 500 toxins and contaminants and what may be causing them. And it helps guide you to regaining a healthier home for you and your family. So the Pure Air Doctor Testing System is more than just a test. It's more than just a report. So experience the Pure Air Doctor difference by going to pureairdoctor.com. So when I took the test, I felt like I was really coming off of a really stressful period. You guys know I produced the heavy docuseries. And so I had it was very stressful producing. That was very fun also, giving birth to your baby that you've been working on for a year and a half. But I felt like I was coming off like 3 months of not sleeping that great and working really long hours and not really exercising or getting sunlight, and just really the worst possible scenario. So I'm really excited to do the test again when I'm not in a stress state and see if that marker improves a lot, because now I'm kind of like on my on my usual like health routine. So I'm really excited about that. And I just moved on top of that. So I think that's very, very stressful. So really excited to see the results next time.
Good. Yeah. I mean, just it goes back to that paper I just mentioned, right? I can always send it to you too if you're interested in like linking it out. But it's these stressors are going to cause increased aging signal. It's completely normal, and it's just going to even bounce back from baseline, which is again I think very, very positive.
And so why don't you tell us kind of how do you do the test? Like if someone wants to do the TruDiagnostic test, what does that look like? What do they have to do?
Yeah, it's super easy. We try and make it as easy as possible for you. So if you're interested in taking the test, you want to go to TruDiagnostic.com and purchase a kit. We have some really cool subscription models now as well, where we can start to ship you a kit, every quarter or so you can start to retest and see how these are affecting that number one risk factor for all-cause mortality and morbidity. It is just a finger prick, right? So we ship a kit to your doorstep, and then you receive it. You'll pull it apart. You get little lancets in a blood spot card. It's like the size of a quarter. You take your sample, put it in the biohazard bag, and then ship it back to our lab in Lexington, Kentucky. So it's really easy to use, really easy to do. You get your results back then in about 2 to 3 weeks from the time we receive the sample. That way, you can then go through the results, ask us any questions. We'd be more than happy to help. We have a really great support team that does that as well.
Yeah, and I think it's so important to do these kind of tests to see kind of where you're at and give you some motivation and some drive if the results aren't that great, to kind of push you, to motivate you to make some changes. And I think it's such a good biomarker, because say when you go to your conventional doctor, they're running a CBC panel and just all these things, kind of very, I don't want to say rudimentary, but they kind of are. There's so much better biomarkers that you can be looking at to gauge exactly where you are in your health. Like your heart rate variability is super, super important. There's so many important baseline markers or important biomarkers that are just not tested for at all when going to your conventional doctor.
Yeah. You're exactly right. I think we're starting to be see a lot of this become way more mainstream, which I think is the end goal. We realize it may be a little bit more expensive right now, but I think we're starting to see this be used just more and more, even in like your not necessarily your like top longevity docs, like all of the top longevity docs are definitely doing this testing, but even just like your kind of hormone doc, right? Where you may pay like out of pocket or cash to get a panel done. But it's not, I really haven't seen it in GP or general practitioner offices, but I mean, that's definitely the end goal is how can we get this out to the masses? How can we really get people tested? Because again, I think it's something that will be maybe on our driver's license in the future. Not anytime soon, and it sounds kind of odd or weird to say, but it'll be the criteria for a lot of things, right? It's a big frailty marker. So instead of saying, maybe one example that comes to mind maybe is like, oh, you have to be you can't be 80 years old, let's say, and go on a roller coaster, right? But if an 80-year-old whose biological age is like 60 because they have great bone health and they're strong and they don't have these aches and pains, then maybe they're able to go on the roller coaster, which again is still silly example and extrapolated, but I think you get my point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I think as we kind of, I don't know, I want to say go into the modern age, I think, we're going to be looking more and more at test results like this, looking at these genetic and epigenetic markers to kind of see where you're at, so you can kind of catch, like if say you're just now getting into health, you're listening to this podcast and you haven't had the most enviable lifestyle or diet, et cetera. We all have our point, our turning point, our choice point where we start to improve things. But when you can look at a test like this and see where you're at and kind of head off problems in the future, I think it's incredibly, incredibly valuable.
Yeah, definitely. I think it is. I think it should be included in every type of baseline. Again, alongside of your even genetic testing to optimize your genes to then better express them and have that better overall epigenetic expression too. I think the retest is more important though, right? The second more than the first, the third more than the second, and so on and so forth, because you can have a younger biological age, you can have a slower pace of aging, and that's amazing. It's a really large accomplishment, but it's not as impressive as being able to sustain that, right? Can you consistently stay there with your behaviors, with the temptations of life, with your habitual routine that you're trying to make too? So being able to kind of ride that wave of good aging and stay there, I think is what we're really looking for at the end of the day.
Yeah, when you're looking at epigenetics, you can change your genetic expression. The power is in your hands. You're not stuck with your genetics for the most part. There's some things you are stuck with, but there's through lifestyle, diet, detox, stress reduction, etc., you can change the epigenetic expression of your genes. You hold a lot of that power, and you can test that with your test. So if people want to go get the test, can they get a coupon code? Do you offer a discount or anything?
Yes, absolutely. So when you go and get the test, make sure you use, I think you have a code, Dr. Myers, that's Wendy 10. People will get 10% off, which I think is around $50 or so. So it's a really good discount, and we don't give them out frequently. So I'll make sure that your listeners are aware of that and they're able to secure that code.
So to get your discount, go to TruDiagnostic.com. It's TRU diagnostic.com and use code Wendy10 to get 10% off the test. Saves you almost $50, which is amazing. So thanks so much for coming on the show, Hannah. Is there anything else that you want to share with the listeners? Anything that we've left out of the conversation that people should know?
No, I don't think so. I think just urging the importance of this test, right? Which I think we've done a pretty good job of. You asked, really great questions to dive into the science a little bit more too. So I appreciate the conversation.
Right, great. Well, Hannah, thanks so much for coming on the show. And everyone, I'm Dr. Wendy Myers. Thanks for tuning in to the show. It's just really a privilege every week to bring you experts from around the world talking about, do anti-aging and genetics and heavy metal detoxification and bioenergetics and all these topics that are really, really important for you to learn about on your health journey. So thanks for tuning in.
The Myers Detox podcast is created and hosted by Wendy Myers. This podcast is for information purposes only. Statements and views expressed on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Wendy Myers and the producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. Individuals on this podcast may have direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.